Good evening and welcome. This is BMTV and this is Simply Frank and I am Frank. Zambia goes to the polls in 3 months' time. There's so many governance issues at play. And on Simply Frank, we discuss some of these important issues with ECZ CEO Brown Kasaro. Good evening and welcome.
Good evening, Frank, and it's good to be here.
Thank you. Before we delve into the issues, I first want to ask you, as a human being, where you sit there, knowing you've got the weight of the whole country, you're carrying the whole 22 million people. What goes through your mind? How do you manage yourself? How do you manage your schedule on daily basis, knowing that you've got a massive responsibility, a thankless job? Let me put it that way. That's where we start from.
Yep. The starting point is that this is not a task for one person. Yeah. So yes, I'm the Chief Electoral Officer, but the viewers out there must appreciate the way the commission is structured. So we have the commission, which comprises a chairperson, vice chairperson, and 3 other commissioners, which in the business world is called the board. But in the electoral laws, it's the commission. That's electoral commission. And then these are the ones that appointed me to be the chief executive and indeed chief electoral officer. So in that respect, then, this is a task that is primarily superintended upon by the chairperson and the members of the electoral commission. And then we come in to lead the secretariat, the team, to execute on this. So yes, it's a huge responsibility, a huge task. Now, what has helped is that our laws are very clear around elections, so there's predictability there. The nation knows that 13th August will be the date for the general election, and this was known as early as 2021, immediately after. So therefore, that helps because the way the laws are structured helps to plan. So as we execute towards the election, there are certain key milestones that have to be achieved in preparation for it, again outlined in the law. So those are the ones that help us to achieve on all those aspects so that then we know we are on course to delivering the election. So indeed, the huge responsibility, a lot of things that come up that may not have been planned and so forth. But there is a team. So the commission, besides what I have mentioned in terms of the commissioner, the chairperson and the commissioners, then there's the staff. Yes, we're not decentralized. However, in the districts, we work through council secretaries or town clerks. So these are the heads of the local authorities. So they execute the functions of the electoral commission. And for purposes of elections, we refer to them as district electoral officers. So these are the people that are actually implementing on the ground with the guidance and the support of the team at head office. So once again, a huge and mammoth task. But we're taking it one step at a time to ensure that we get to August as ready as possible.
For those who don't know, you're not new, to ECZ. You were there before, many years. And does this, help in executing your responsibilities?
Yes, it does. So I first joined the Electoral Commission in 2006. It was just before the 2006 general election in the ICT department. So worked with the commission as head of ICT from 2006 to 2017. Then left for other assignments and then rejoined in 2023. So that background has helped me to settle in and work with the team because there's that awareness of what must be done, what should be done as we prepare for the general election.
Let's start with the contentious issue, delimitation. Why undertake delimitation after a voter registration when it's at variance with democratic principles. What am I talking about? You focused on saying only constituencies will increase, but the supplementary budget submitted by the Ministry of Finance is stating an increase of polling stations. How can this commitment to Zambians of only increase in constituencies be justified, especially in terms of finances? We're now talking about a very large responsibility.
So let's come back to delimitation.
Right.
So in this particular instance, the 2026 delimitation, as you've rightly put, focused on constituencies.
Yeah.
And this was as a result of the amendment to the Constitution. So the Constitution of Zambia was amended on 18th December 2025. And one of those provisions in the amendment increased the number of constituencies from 156 to 226. Now, that immediately the amendment was assented to meant that the Electoral Commission had to establish those new constituency boundaries before the general election. So it's for this reason that the Commission had to undertake that delimitation. Now, in explaining this, and as we've completed it, viewers out there will recall that the Commission released the new constituency schedule on 17th April. And in our communication, we're consistent that given that the constitutional amendment has happened after that we have conducted voter registration, this particular delimitation will focus on constituencies only by rearranging the wards so that the voter is not inconvenienced or is not disturbed. So that commitment remains true. What this delimitation has done is to regroup wards. So we'll pick an example of a constituency here in Lusaka, Roma. Okay, it has picked some wards from the then Mandevo constituency. I think one from the then Monali constituency, and probably two from, I think one from Saka or two from Monali and one from Lusaka Central to form the Roma constituency.
Right.
Yeah, but when it comes to the voters, the law on voter registration is very clear. It is expected, Frank, that when a person goes to register to vote, they will register to vote at a polling station near where they ordinarily reside. So this delimitation has not changed where you and I ordinarily reside. That therefore means that the polling station where we registered remains the same.
Right.
Okay. What has changed is that the ward which we belong to, so let's take again Roma. So let's take Kalingalinga ward. So if a person is a registered voter, they're ordinarily resident within Greatest Road campus of the University of Zambia, their polling station is the University of Zambia Sports Hall. That has not changed. That polling station is in Kalingalinga ward. That ward now falls under Roma constituency. But where the person, the voter that is registered to vote at the University of Zambia Sports Hall has not changed. They still go to vote at that place. So that commitment remains valid. Now, what was the reference now to the supplementary budget? So here again, you excuse me in terms of the multiple use of the word polling station. We use this polling word in multiple ways for simplicity. But critically speaking, let's take the University of Zambia Sports Hall. Technically speaking, that sports hall is referred to as a polling center or voting center. All right? Now, at that voting center, depending on the number of voters registered to vote at that center, you may have more than one voting rooms. So those rooms are what we refer to as polling stations.
Right.
But are housed at the same center. Now, the number of polling stations is only determined after you certify the register.
Yeah.
So as we prepare in when the register of voters was certified for the 2021 general election, the Electoral Commission informed the nation that we have 12,152 polling stations. Now, those were not 12,152 separate locations. The actual locations are actually 9,000. But some of those 9,000 centers, like the University of Zambia itself, have more than one voting room or more than one polling station. It could have even 8 or 10. So as we prepare for the 2026 general election, the number of voting centers has not increased because increasing the number of voters centers entails a delimitation of that lower level, which would disturb the voter, because then you would establish a new voting center close to someone's neighborhood. So when do they know for them to transfer? So that must be done before you undertake an update to the register. So which we did not do. So therefore, the number of voting centers remains approximately 9,000. But however, the number of voters has increased.
Right.
So going back to the University of Zambia, let's say we had 7,000 voters. With this 2025 registration, the number of voters there could have moved up to 8,000 plus. That means we may have an extra 1 or 2 voting rooms. So that application for the supplementary was in anticipation of this, to say we have registered new voters. We're anticipating an increase in the polling stations. So that has a cost, because remember, when voting day, whichever room you go into, it has to be manned by at least 5 officers. You know, the presiding officer and polling agents on the various tables to facilitate the voting process. So when we increase the number of voters, so there's a threshold that the commission puts to say any voting room can only handle so many voters on election day to avoid long queues and so forth. So when we increase the number of registered voters, we invariably increase the number of rooms at certain voting centers to accommodate those new voters. That then has a budgetary implication, because those new rooms have to be manned by officers who would have to be, and also the other logistics of ballots and so forth and so forth. So this is where that is coming from. So back to what you did refer to. So this is in no way in conflict with what the Commission has already always indicated. So once again, for the viewers out there, if you're a registered voter, your voting center remains the same.
Right.
You may not know as you leave home on election day to say which room in the sports hall will I go into. Don't worry. On election day, there are officers designated there that will assign you, will direct you to the room where you will vote. And if I may add a detail there, is that how we split these rooms is we arrange the voters at the voting center in alphabetical order of surname. All right. So you would have, for example, if a center has 2 voting rooms or polling stations only, you would say, all right, everyone with alphabetical letters A to M, you're voting in room 1. N to Z, room 2. But the more you increase, that variation will come in. So there will be officers at the voting centers who will direct the people. All right, what's your surname? Oh, this. Oh, go to room 1, room 2, room 3, as the case may be.
Let me ask you a lot of questions. Obviously, there've been mixed reaction to this. So many. One, why undertake this exercise? Which is very expensive. 2, how much consultation was done, because some provinces have complained. 3, what was the criteria used? What am I saying? There are certain provinces with less population who've got more constituencies or equal. For example, Southern Province almost equal to Lusaka. Could you clarify, these, 3 issues and any other related issues I've left out?
All right. So the first question was on why now? I did address it as we began, is that the Electoral Commission, let me put it this way. The number of constituencies that Zambia has is stated in the Constitution. All right.
Yeah.
So the Electoral Commission, the role of the Electoral Commission is to say, if the Constitution is amended, then the Commission has to go on the ground to establish those numbers. So in this case, the Constitution was amended in December. The Commission had to go on the ground before the general election because these boundaries will take effect this Saturday at the dissolution. So Parliament dissolves on Friday, this Saturday. That's what the Constitution says. So in short, it's a constitutional mandate. The Constitution has been amended. We have to undertake the exercise now. But on the other side, let's look at it from the other eye. It's really has been a cry of the people of Zambia. The Constitution mandates the Electoral Commission to review constituency boundaries every 10 years following a census. Okay. Now, every 10 years from the last time that Zambia saw an increase in constituency, which was in 1990. Every 10 years, since its establishment in 1996, the Commission has endeavored to review constituency boundaries. But that has not translated because it required constitutional amendment, which did not take place. But this time around, the Constitution has been amended, and therefore the implementation has been done. Now, when it comes to the process, so following the amendment, the Commission went onto the table to plan. And in terms of stakeholder engagement, the first step was to call a general stakeholder meeting. And this was done in February, where we met with stakeholders and indicated to say, look, the constitutional mandate, the Commission has to conduct delimitation. Now, at that meeting, we did indicate to the nation through those stakeholders that when it comes to the delimitation of constituencies, the only law that we have to work with is the Constitution itself. So in there, it spells out the factors that the Commission must put into consideration in arriving at these boundaries. So if I may spell them out, if you paraphrasing, not quoting the Constitution word for word, is that the first is the Commission is required to look at the diversity, cohesiveness, and history of a particular community. And then the Commission is also required to look at the population density, trends, and projections. The Commission was also required to ensure that the population within a constituency is reasonable, taking into consideration means of communication and geographical features of a particular area. Then the Commission is also required to ensure that the boundaries of a constitution remain within a district. Okay. Then, last but not the least, the Commission is also required to ensure that there is approximate equality of population in a constituency, taking into consideration both the urban and the rural, urban which are densely populated and the rural which are sparsely populated. So now, how do we, let's paraphrase those factors. So first, the principal one, first to start with, is the one about the district boundary. So we have to make sure that the constituencies are within a district. Now, that may sound obvious, but I'll give you an example. Lusaka is a good one, for example. We have areas like Minwood, Kwamwena, Chamba Valley. That is technically in Chongwe. But the residents there, by and large, think they're in Lusaka. So it would not be unusual for them to think, look, give us a constituency that is in Lusaka district, but really they're in Chongwe. So the Commission has to make sure it abides by the district boundaries. So therefore then, with that, what the Commission had to take is, if you look at those factors, probably two are quantitative, can be reduced to numbers. Okay, so this is the surface area and the population. So therefore, the commission had to say, all right, we have a working unit, which is a district.
Yeah.
With this population and this surface area. The Constitution requires to hold these two in balance. It's not prescriptive as to how that balance should be, but it requires the commission to hold that in balance.
Right.
So then the commission had to apply itself. So, all right, let's look at these factors.
Yeah.
And review each district, okay? And say, okay, let's forget about what they have right now. Say this district, we have 116, this is their population, this is their surface area. How many constituencies do they deserve out of the 226?
Yeah.
And then that gave us some numbers to work with. And then we say, all right, if you say Lusaka deserves a certain number, what does it, how many constituencies does it currently have? And therefore, we were able to allocate 3 to Lusaka, weighing all those factors. And for the rest of the districts, it was mostly 1. Looking at those factors, Frank, every district, in fact, almost probably 99% deserve. There are very few that everyone can sit around the table and say, no, I think we are good here, we're okay. An example I'd cite would be Ruangwa district. You know, so no, the numbers are not adding up. But almost every other district deserved an additional constituency. However, the commission had 70 against 116 districts. So then a necessary review had to be done. So all those are the issues that we're explaining to stakeholders. These are the factors that the commission. So once, so I was still elaborating on step 1 of engagement. Then step 2 is that we said, let each district hold a consultative meeting. And who was invited to those meetings? All elected officials in that district, traditional leaders in that district, civil society in that district, the church in that district, heads of government departments in that district, and indeed the general public. The meetings were open to the public. Now, we gave them a day to meet and deliberate and come up with a recommendation to submit to the commission. So how were those meetings structured? We facilitated by deploying our staff from head office to each of those districts. The meetings were presided over by the town clerks and council secretaries. So they discussed, they presented the parameters. So these are the factors. So why are we here? Delimitation. These are the factors. And with the help of technology, we were able to show to the stakeholders in the district, say, look, this is your district boundary. These are the numbers in terms of your population. Here is your surface area. But beyond that, here are the geographical features in the district, the rivers, the mountains. Here are how the people are settled. You know, with support from Zamstats and other government departments, were able to deploy. And now with that information, the stakeholders were able to deliberate. And now what also made it easier is, remember, I referred to other reviews that the commission had been doing. So most of the stakeholders, this was not a new subject. So with that information, they were able to deliberate and make a recommendation to the commission. So the recommendation included, first of all, we submit that we require an additional constituency. And secondly, these are the boundaries. Remember, I said we're only moving wards, so we're regrouping the wards in district. These are the boundaries we propose. That this is how the constitution, the constituencies should, the new constituency. Then thirdly, this is the name that we propose for this constituency. So for districts that had a single constituency, you know, big districts like Kazungula, it was just splitting it. But for others that have more than one, it required realigning, picking up words from there and there, like Mansa, you pick up from Mansa Central, from Bahati, to create your new constituency. So that was stage 2 of the consultations. Stage 3 then was, we said, the resolutions of those meetings ought to be presented before the commission. And we organized meetings at each provincial headquarters where the district electoral officers, with the support of representatives from that meeting, came to present the reports and vouched for them to, yes, this is what I agreed, and here you are. So the commission then consolidated all that and deliberated with those factors in mind to arrive at the distribution. So coming back to the third aspect of your question, to say, look, this province, smaller population, but so now back to the two factors of surface area and population. So stakeholders will look at these issues based on where they're sitting. If a person is in Lusaka or in an urban area, their focus will be, look, Lusaka has 2 million people, so we deserve more. But let's not forget the Constitution requires that we balance the two. So the same argument the Commission was getting from people in the rural districts. So they would say, look, Western Province is the biggest geographical, 17+% of the national surface area of the country, the surface area of Zambia. We deserve more. So the Commission had to balance that as required by the Constitution in terms of those two factors of surface area and population, numbers. Yes.
See, there's no doubt, that this delimitation has been done, before. But when you include proportional representatives, this is very new, into this country and to the electorate. Don't you think, you should what could have been an implication? I know you have talked about the Constitution and you have to do it. What could have been the implications if this exercise had been delayed?
So if the starting point is the amendment. So with the amendment, the Commission had no choice because then it would have been in breach of the Constitution if it does not delimit at this point. Yes.
Okay.
So granted, there's two major changes in terms of the electoral process with this amendment. The aspect of the proportional representation. So when it comes to the delimitation that I've explained, I think the consultation and so on help to also create that awareness, but we've not left it there. As we go towards the election, what do I say? Because the major key question is, which constituency do I belong to? Where will I go to vote and so forth? What we're emphasizing is that, remember our earlier discussion around the voting center. So your voting center does not change. So every registered voter out there, just know that your voting center has not changed. What may have changed is now you belong to constituency A instead of constituency B. You were probably in Lusaka Central, now you'll be voting in Roma. You were probably in Mandevi, you'll now be voting in Roma. Or you're probably in Monali, you'll be voting in Roma. Or you were in Monali, you're still in Monali, but Monali has reduced in terms of some wards have moved away. So that information we will continue to share with the the citizens out there. So the first step, what have we done? Is what we've said is that as we certified the register of voters, we said we have platforms, electronic platforms available for you to start checking starting now. What are these platforms? The most pervasive, the most easily accessible is the USSD code, regardless of the type of phone you have. This does not require internet. It's basic texting. USSD *214#. You will be prompted to enter your voter card number. You will be able, you confirm you're a registered voter at such polling station in this constituency. So that's awareness. For those that have access to the internet, this is also available on a portal of the Commission, OVR, standing for Online Voter Registration, so ovr.elections.org.zm, and also via our elections Google app that you can download from Google Play Store. So this information has started being shared. And as we conclude the nominations this coming weeks, we will deploy voter education facilitators in each of the wards countrywide to continue to sensitize the people. It's all right, your ward now is in this constituency and so forth. And where you registered to vote remains the same. Now, if I may transition to the issue of the proportional representation. So that's the second major aspect that was introduced in this amendment in terms of proportional representation at both the National Assembly and at local government level in terms of councils. So the Constitution has now stated that Parliament will also include 40 members of Parliament that will get into the House via proportional representation. Now, proportion to what? Proportion to the total valid votes obtained by presidential candidates sponsored by a political party. Okay, so the political parties that sponsor a presidential candidate, the total valid votes obtained by those will determine the share of those proportional seats that that political party will obtain, and therefore send people to the House. So these, again, have been categorized. Of the 40, you have 20 for women, 15 for youth, and 5 for persons with disabilities. So now, with that, so the Constitution laid out the broad principles. So with that, then, what did the Commission have to do? Now, that has to be translated into the steps. What are the procedures of the processes? So this is where now the amendment to the Electoral Act came in. So the Commission did make consultations, and with the support of Ministry of Justice, came up with amendments, and that government tabled the bill, and which passed last night in terms of the third reading in Parliament. Now, outlining how then these 40 persons will be arrived at and therefore go into the House. So now when it comes, so we realize that at this point, what we were just dealing with is there's a constitutional amendment, but we had to make sure, the Commission had to make sure that the law was in place that spells out the details. For example, the formula also of arriving at that. So at this point, the sensitization, and thankfully to forums like this, the sensitization has focused on the principles, because we had to wait for the bill, the amendment to pass. Now that the amendment has passed, what the Commission now then would do is begin to engage these stakeholders, with the primary focus on the political parties that will sponsor a presidential candidate, to spell out now, to say this is so that they get ready in terms of at the required time, prepare the persons that will be on that list of women, youth, and persons that they'll submit to the Commission for possible election to the National Assembly via the proportional representation.
Who decides, on those, names that, for example, we need so many, women. For example, we need so many who are physically, stretched. Who decides, that? That's part of the question. And two, doesn't the system favor those, who get, more votes in saying so? Is that the best and fair way of doing it?
I think the principle of our democracy is that ultimately it's the will of the people. So what the Constitution has outlined is to say, like I indicated, 40 seats, proportional representation, 20 women, 15 youth, and 5 persons with disabilities. Now, in terms of the share of those seats, is, again, you look at the total valid votes obtained by presidential candidates.
Presidential.
Now, depending on the share now of the valid votes that a particular presidential candidate has obtained, let's, for argument's sake, say they've got 50%. For argument's sake. That means then the party that has sponsored that presidential candidate is entitled to 50% of the 20. So 10, 50% of the 15, it's 7.5, but 7, and then 50% of a 5, at least 2 seats. They go to the party that the party whose candidate has scored the 50%. Now, in terms of coming back to your question, that's the essence of democracy. To say that
that's so easy. I have to stop you in there.
Let me finish my
extremely thought. All right,
let me finish my thought before. So the essence of democracy is that this is what the Zambians that voted asked for. Now, that's not the ultimate end. The benefit of the proportional system is that, as opposed to the other, okay, either majoritarian or first the post, is that whoever would win would have taken all. But in this case, what is provided for is that presidential candidate B may have obtained 20% of the national vote. Before this law, that would have been the end. They've lost, life goes on. But with this law, it means that that political party that sponsored this presidential candidate is entitled to 4 seats for women in parliament. Another probably 2 or 3 rather for youth, and maybe 1 for persons with disability. So therein comes the representation that yes, this candidate lost the presidential election, but they've got a share of these seats in proportion to the vote. So therefore representing the voice of those 20% Zambians that said would like to vote for this person or this party.
Let me punch 1 or 2 holes in democracy. CEO, wouldn't it have been even fairer if these 40 seats were selected by various representative institutions? For example, NGO, I'm just giving an example. For example, NGO says these are the women, who are coming from NGOCC representing all the women. These are the numbers that are coming from the physically, straight, rather than, being driven by political affiliation.
All right. So I think it's back to the fundamentals. Firstly, we're looking at, this is an electoral system. Meaning we are back to elections. So who participates in an election? It's political parties. Because then the argument that would come in is really, this is about the mandate of the people. So the mandate of Zambians is expressed through a vote. And they vote for candidates that are sponsored by political parties. That gives that political party the mandate, in this case, to say, all right, the people of Zambia have agreed or have supported our program, our ideas, and so forth. And have said, here are the votes. So, for example, the 20% example, candidate B, to say 20% of the Zambians resonate with our message. They've said, we hear you, we think we are in support of what you're pushing. Now, yes, we've lost the presidential vote, but to carry the voice of these 20%, we're sending 6-7 members of parliament to the House to go and carry our vote. Now, if we bring in these other institutions, NGOs and so forth, they have their place in the democratic process. But the challenge you have is the mandate. Is the mandate. So that's why we circle back to political parties and so forth.
Let me take you back and just allay, politics is a very strange, commodity or product. There have been all these sentiments raised, that, the delimitation, favors, the party, the government, of the day, that they got more constituencies in areas where they're stronger. Could you allay, this, situation?
So the first point of argument in terms of allaying those fears is the numbers that the Commission has shared. The distribution, just looking at it, speaks to the factors that we spoke about, the population and the geographic size. What the viewers and the citizens out there have to bear in mind is that there has to be that balance, between the densely populated and the sparsely populated. So sitting in the cities, one would think that, all right, you have all these huge districts like Kazungula, but probably 50% of it is just bush. People are just located in a corner. like as I indicated, when we were having these stakeholder meetings, we put up the district map and show, and most of these districts, people are settled throughout. Now you're talking about huge districts where to get across, for example, Kasemba, you're talking 200 kilometers within a district. You're driving from here to Kawe, you haven't finished the district. So they're huge. So that has to be balanced with the population. Yes, the people are scattered, but there are Zambians that require representation. We come to Lusaka, the people are many. And they require access for people in the urban centers would be how can we effectively reach to our representatives? Hence, Lusaka getting 3 constituencies to bring it to 10 from 7. So the distribution is in line with the factors. So this issue of stronghold and so forth is really a perception. And Zambia should really look at just history, that's the reason we go to elections, because if we are all resigned, say, okay, this one is no, we don't know. The only way you will know stronghold is come August 14th or 15th, 16th when we announce the results. Okay, this one has won this side and so forth.
Before I come to the qualifications, contentious qualifications for presidential, candidates, let's look at the numbers of registered voters, 8 point something million. Are you satisfied with, that number, in relation, to the population of, this, country? And in saying so, critically, CEO, how are you going to ensure that you get closer, to that 8 point something, million? Because I think that's, very, very, critical.
So, according to the 2022 census of population and housing, the number of Zambians that are 18 years and above is about 11.6 million. Zambians are 18 and above. Now, as the commission went to do voter registration, the commission, in its preparation and its messaging, targeted to reach all those. Now, let's bear in mind that voting in Zambia is not mandatory. So the commission did its best, arising because this exercise that we were doing, it was an update to the 2021 register. So we registered 1.6 million plus, taking into account also those that registered during continuous registration, 1.7 million plus. So this represents over 70% of those Zambians that are 18 and above. Internationally speaking, this is a very good performance. In the average is around 60%. So we have reached 70% of citizens that are 18 and above are on the register of voters. So in that respect, then Zambia has done fairly well. We would continue to, as we go forward, continue to see if we can get even higher percentages. Now, in terms of reaching this, again, cycling back to our earlier discussion around voting centers and so forth and wards. And so how, in terms of reaching these people, the first point of call for the commission is during voter registration itself, as we interact, we're saying, you're registering, don't just end here, vote also. Now, as we prepare for the general election, we will continue to share messaging, and interactions like this with you here are helping to sensitize Zambians that there's an election coming up, participate, vote in this coming election. And we'll send officers on the ground to say, look, there's an election coming up, and these are the dates and these are the requirements. So if you're registered to vote, get ready to vote. And going back to our just last discussion, if I may add, is that one key message that we're sending out now in this year's election also, besides what we spoke about in terms of constituencies and where are you now, that now we have 226, is what we've just been talking about, the proportional representation. What we're communicating to the registered voters out there is that now your vote carries more weight. Don't resign to say, even if I vote for my president candidate, they may not win. Go ahead and vote for them, because your vote will translate into a seat in parliament for that particular party, or if not, we if loosely we can say for that particular candidate, so that the voice or the manifesto or the message or the program, the agenda for that person has a voice in Parliament. So that will also see that will be emphasized so that we see people turning out to it.
Because of time, and I think we've only got time moves so fast. We've got, I think, about 10 minutes or so. I'll have to combine, this question and we move, hopefully, fast, CEO. The qualifications of the president. The Constitution, is very clear. You have to be Zambian, no criminal, record, but you've added other qualifications. He has to be certified by, register of societies, the SG of the party. Could you please clarify, this and why you changed this or you added other qualifications, CEO? That's part of it. And two, at what stage, do you accept that this person qualifies, he'll be on the ballot? And at what stage do you decide to disqualify? And the reasons, it's really loaded. And do we have all these 36 or so presidential candidates? I know it's democracy, but some of them, really should not even be on the ballot. It's really loaded in a question, but very important that you clarify, this.
All right, thank you. So when it comes to qualifications, I think the clarification there is that the Commission has not added to the qualifications. So the Constitution, in terms of qualification for nomination as presidential candidate, has not been amended. It remains as was. Now, the Constitution provides for two categories of candidates. Okay, one explicitly, the other one is by inference, by implication. Is a candidate can either be independent or sponsored by a political party.
Right.
All right. Now, when a candidate is sponsored by a political party, the law requires that as they file their nomination, the nomination paper indicates that I have been sponsored by political party ABC.
Right.
All right. Now, the issue then is, which has been there, but which now has been clarified through a provision in the Electoral Process Act, is that declaration that I've been sponsored by party A should be supported by an adoption certificate from that particular political party to say, yes, we have sponsored this candidate as political party ABCD as our candidate for the presidential election, or indeed any other elective position. So that's the clarification. Now, the reference to the Registrar of Societies is in respect of the fact that these political parties have office bearers, as registered with Registrar of Societies. And those office bearers, one would be designated as president, and another would be, among others, designated as the Secretary General, National Secretary, or General Secretary, as the case may be. So then those become the point of contact, so that there is identification of them. So because as we speak, even before this amendment, the regulations require, so if a person files a nomination and there is a dispute to do with the sponsorship of as stated on their nomination form, the regulations, even before this amendment, were very clear that the Commission will resolve that by engaging the Secretary General for the party. Because those are the people responsible. So now, instead of being reactive, let's be proactive and clear this whole issue. As a party, they definitely sit down. It's not strange. I don't think people just wake up and say, I'm standing on this party. And so that's why I think we've been listening to the news of late. There are primaries or some sort, the adoption processes. That's the process that they've always done. So what we're saying is, could we be supported by saying, this is the person we have adopted to stand as member of parliament for Monali constituents, or for Roma constituents, or indeed for the presidential election for the Republic of Zambia.
Let's be specific on one case which is going around the rumorville, see all this town, these countries, or about rumors that there are certain presidents, that there are fears, from, the ruling party, that they're too strong and, the moves for them not to be on the ballot because the sponsored political parties may not have, for example, a president. Could you just clarify the role of the president and whether there's any merit in these rumors?
So where we stand as the Electoral Commission, we dismiss those rumors because from as the Electoral Commission, from where we sit, what we're saying is a political party is an institution.
Right.
All right. With office bearer registered with the Registrar of Society.
Yeah.
Now, the person standing as a presidential candidate need not be any of those office bearers.
Right.
No. The political party has their at liberty to choose, to adopt, as it were.
Right.
Any person as their presidential candidate.
Right.
All we are requiring is that the office bearers, specifically the president and the national secretary or secretary general, sign the adoption certificates. As political party A, B, C, D, we have adopted candidates so and so for the presidential election.
Right. At what stage then do you decide? Please go ahead.
So in terms of the stage, is that I think maybe these questions may arise now because there's an administrative process that the commission is currently undertaking. So let me give that background first before I start.
Right.
Is that the Constitution, as we referred to earlier in terms of the qualification, requires that for a person to successfully file their nomination as a presidential candidate, they ought to be supported by 100 registered voters from each province.
Yeah.
So those people must back that nomination. Now, for convenience, the commission said instead of the candidates bringing those 1,000 people to Lusaka, the date they're filing their nominations, let's support them by availing our services to them at the provincial headquarters. Bring those 100 registered voters for the province at the provincial, and doesn't matter the constituency. You don't have to go to every district. If it's in Lusaka, you can just go to one constituency, Kanyama or Chawama, and get your 100.
Right.
Present them. So that's administrative.
Yeah.
But the process of filing nominations is governed by a nomination date. So the commission has indicated by its roadmap that the nominations for presidential start Monday 18th to Friday 22nd. So that's the legal time for filing nominations.
Excellent.
This is administrative, but on that day, so again, because of the number of candidates and so forth, we've provided slots. So at the prescribed time, the aspiring presidential candidate will file nomination papers and say, here are the 100 that you as ECZ verified.
Excellent.
And in support of my nomination, in addition to the other documents, and present those before the returning officer. In this case, the returning officer is the chairperson of the Electoral Commission. So it's at both point that the returning officer will scrutinize the documentation and indicate to the aspiring candidate, you have validly nominated or you are not nominated.
Brilliant. Again, because of time, I'm going to combine, this, question. One, we have, laid down, the procedure, the campaigns, what entails in terms of the campaigns, when do they start officially, what is the guarantee for access, to the media. There's an act now, although it hasn't been assented to, about public gathering. How does this resonate with campaigns, and then go through now the election day itself, the procedure, the observers, that whole works. Let me put it that way instead of breaking down my question. Just go through the whole works now.
Yeah. So in terms of campaigns, so after the nomination processes are completed, then the campaign period kicks in. So the Electoral Commission of Zambia will be issuing a statutory instrument, an SI, indicating the election timetable. So yes, the roadmap that we indicated was a general notification to members of public, but legally we'll issue a statutory instrument indicating the dates for the nominations and then the campaign period. Now, the campaign period is governed by both the Electoral Process Act in terms of the Code of Conduct and the Public Gatherings or Act, as we are to be asserted. Now, in collaboration with the police and the political parties participating, they would develop campaign timetables in conjunction with the police. So let's narrow down to a constituency. There are 5 candidates campaigning. They'll develop a campaign timetable. All right, this week I'll be in this corner, you'll be in that corner. Then they rotate and so they cover to avoid them. That document suffices as a notification to the police. We do not have to write individually because the police are part of that planning. And then, so when it comes to campaign, that is the mechanism that is in place countrywide to guarantee, to facilitate equitable access and free campaigns for everyone in the process. So this has worked very well during by-elections and will be implemented come this general election as the campaigns kick in a few weeks' time, in a week or so. So this is where we stand as we move towards there.
Excellent.
So all this then will culminate into election day, where, as we indicated earlier, every registered voter out there, just go to the center where you registered. Say, you said, I want to go and vote at this place. Carry your voter's card, your national registration card, go there, you'll be directed to which room to go into, and then you'll be presented with the ballot papers. The ballot papers remain the same. One for presidential, one for the mayor or council chairperson, for a member of parliament, and for a councillor. 4 ballot papers. Issued with those, you go to the booth, mark them appropriately, cast them into the ballot box and walk out of the room. As you go in, if I may take a step back, with your card, and you'll be verified and checked in the register, both electronically and physically, and your thumb, inked to indicate that you have been to the, you pick up your ballot paper, cast in secret, forward them, rather vote in secret, forward them, cast into the respective ballot paper. To make it easier, the ballot boxes, the leads are colored. And the color of the lead matches the color of the ballot paper. So a different color for the presidential, a different color for the National Assembly, for local government, a different color. So you'll be given those ballot papers, you slot them in that respect, and leave the room. At the end of the day, those votes will be counted. The nation will know who has won the election.
Excellent. It is in your interest, the interest of the nation, Mr. Kasaro, that this is a free and fair election. How do you arrive at that? What would you term as free and fair? And like I said, what are the roles of the observers, the monitors?
So a free and fair election is determined from how that particular election has fared against the legal framework pertaining to that country. So the laws and the rules and regulations pertaining to that country, which invariably are based on international standards. So in this case, then, the question we'll be asking is, has the Electoral Commission conducted this election as prescribed by law? And also the other question is, has all the players, the stakeholders in the process, conducted themselves in line with the law? So it's not just the Electoral Commission, but indeed all players. Now, those include observers and monitors. So the laws provide for an election to be observed. So the process, the campaigns to be observed. But critically, the activities come election day. And so the process in Zambia, and including the 2026 general election, come August 18th, the commission will provide accreditation so that observers and monitors can access the polling stations, observe the going-ons in there to ensure that these are compliant with the rules and regulations governing elections in Zambia. So the process is open to observation at every stage up to the declaration of the results.
Excellent. My final question, Mr. Kasaro, is how would you like to be remembered? What kind of legacy would you like, to relate to you, especially in relation of this important, exercise, and in that your general message, to the country. And the final part of that, I always ask my guests, this, that when we leave this, studio and outside you meet, Jesus, what kind of conversation would you, conduct, with Jesus, especially in relation, to this country?
Thank you. Very loaded.
It is.
So I hope I can remember every distinct part.
There is the legacy, there's a message, and the Jesus at the end.
All right. Yeah. So the legacy really is to say, I think this resonates with the mission of the Electoral Commission. Really to effectively manage the process in order to deliver credible elections. So the elections that are credible. Really, that's ultimately the legacy that I would like to leave. Yeah. Now, in terms of the conversation that I would have, and thank you for that, because I'm a person that believes in
fantastic
Jesus. Yeah. So the conversation that I would like to have is I conduct myself. I do the job to the extent that I say, when I appear before Him, would I be able to be confident and hear from Him that you did well, my servant?
Yeah.
That's the yardstick.
Yeah.
That as I sit on my desk, as I execute my functions, I said to myself, if He were to appear here physically, would I be able to expect that statement from Him? So that's always the target. Yeah. To say, have done well as His servant.
Absolutely. Mr. Kasaro, I thank you very much. And, all the best. This is a thankless job, but somebody has to do it, and it happens to be you and your team.
Thank you.
Thank you. This has been simply, Frank. My guest has been Mr. Brown Kasaro, who is the CEO, Chief Electoral Officer, of the CEC, Zaid. We talked about a number of issues, governance issues and election, issues. The ball is not only in ECZ, the political parties and all the players, but you as electorates, as Zambians, to ensure that you exercise, this right, and that at the top of everything, the interest should be the country, Zambia. And we all pray that, as usual, this exercise will be very peaceful. We've set very high standards to the rest of the world, and we pray, that will be maintained. On behalf of Mr. Kasaro, I'm Frank, on Simply Frank. Good night.